It was a cold winter night when I picked up my first passenger of what would become the most terrifying shift of my Uber career. I'd been driving for about 6 months, mostly weekends, mostly drunk college students. Nothing too crazy until that night. I got a ping for a pickup at an apartment complex on the outskirts of town. The passenger's name was Michael. When I pulled up, there was a man standing alone in the shadows, just beyond the glow of the streetlight. Something about him immediately felt off. He got in the back seat without saying a word. I greeted him with my usual, "How's your night going?" But he just mumbled something inaudible. The app showed his destination was about 25 minutes away in a rural area I wasn't familiar with. As we drove, I tried making conversation, but he only gave one-word answers. I noticed in my rearview mirror that he kept staring directly at me, not out the window, not at his phone, just fixed on the back of my head. The hairs on my neck stood up. About 10 minutes into the ride, we turned onto a narrow country road. Houses became more spread out, streetlights disappeared, and the darkness seemed to swallow my headlights. That's when Michael finally spoke clearly. "Actually, can you pull over right here?" he asked, pointing to a dirt path leading into dense woods. There were no houses, no buildings, nothing but trees and darkness. "I'm sorry," I said, "but I can only drop you at the destination in the app." Michael leaned forward, so close I could feel his breath on my neck. "Pull over now," he whispered. "I have something to show you in the woods." My heart was pounding. I maintained my speed, pretending I didn't hear him. Then I felt something cold press against my shoulder. "I said pull over," he repeated. I glanced down and saw he was holding a knife. Time seemed to freeze. I remembered reading about an Uber driver who was murdered the previous year, body dumped in a remote location. Was I about to become a statistic? As we approached a curve, I saw headlights coming from the opposite direction, a police cruiser. Without hesitation, I slammed on my brakes, swerved toward the shoulder, and blared my horn. The cop car slowed down. Michael immediately pulled back the knife and slouched in his seat. I rolled down my window and waved frantically at the officer. "Everything okay here?" the officer asked, approaching my window. Before I could respond, I heard the back door open. Michael bolted into the woods, disappearing into the darkness. The officer radioed for backup and took my statement. They never found him. I quit driving for Uber that night. My second story happened to my sister Sarah, who used Uber frequently in Chicago. She worked late shifts at a downtown hospital and would often get rides home around 2 a.m. One particularly foggy night, she requested a ride after her shift. The app showed her driver was named Thomas, driving a black Honda Civic. When the car arrived, she confirmed the license plate matched and got in. Thomas was friendly, almost too friendly. He kept asking personal questions. "Do you live alone? Is anyone waiting for you at home? Do you work this late often?" Sarah gave vague answers, but felt increasingly uncomfortable. Instead of taking the usual route to her apartment, Thomas turned onto an unfamiliar street. "I think you missed the turn," Sarah said. "Just taking a shortcut," Thomas replied, smiling in the rearview mirror. "Construction on the main road." Sarah pulled out her phone to check the route, but noticed she had no signal. That's when panic set in. She remembered the safety button in the Uber app, but without service, it was useless. Thomas made another unexpected turn into an industrial area, completely deserted at that hour. When he slowed near an abandoned warehouse, Sarah knew she had to act. "Actually, can you just drop me here? My boyfriend is waiting at that corner," she lied, pointing to a random spot ahead. Thomas stared at her through the mirror. "There's nobody there," he said flatly. "He's probably around the corner." "This is fine," she insisted, reaching for the door handle. That's when Thomas locked the doors from his driver controls. "I don't think so," he said, his friendly demeanor vanishing. "We're going somewhere more private to get to know each other better." Sarah's training as a nurse kicked in. She remembered a self-defense instructor saying the best weapon is often surprise. She pretended to cough violently, then vomited, deliberately, all over his back seat. Thomas shouted in disgust and quickly unlocked the doors to kick her out. The moment the locks clicked, Sarah flung the door open and ran toward a 24-hour gas station she spotted in the distance. When she reported the incident to Uber and the police, they discovered Thomas had been using a stolen identity. The real Thomas had no idea his profile was being used. The imposter was eventually caught trying the same tactic with another passenger. They found duct tape, rope, and a taser in his trunk. The third story is about a college student named Jamie who ordered Uber Eats one night while studying for finals. She lived in an off-campus apartment alone, something she never thought twice about until that night. It was around 9 p.m. when she placed her order. The app showed her delivery driver was named Kevin. About 30 minutes later, she got the notification that her food had arrived. When Jamie opened her door, she found her food neatly placed on her welcome mat. As she bent down to pick it up, she noticed a small piece of paper tucked under the bag, a handwritten note that said, "You look beautiful when you study by the window." Jamie froze. Her study desk was indeed by the window, but her blinds had been closed. At least she thought they had been. She quickly looked around but saw no one. She took her food inside, double-locked her door, and checked all her windows. One blind in her bedroom was slightly ajar, just enough for someone to peek through. Trying to shake off her unease, Jamie convinced herself it was just a weird coincidence. Maybe the driver was just being creepy, but harmless. The next night, Jamie ordered from a different restaurant. She made sure all her blinds were completely closed this time. When the food arrived, there was another note. "Blue is definitely your color. You should wear it more often." Jamie had been wearing a blue sweatshirt all day inside her apartment behind closed blinds. Terrified, she called campus security. While waiting for them to arrive, she received a text from an unknown number. "Don't worry, I'm not going to hurt you. I just want to protect you. You need someone to watch over you." Security officers searched the area, but found nothing. They advised Jamie to stay with a friend, which she did. The next day, she filed a police report and contacted Uber. 3 days later, police arrested Kevin, her original delivery driver. He had been parking across from her apartment each night, watching her. In his car, they found binoculars, photos of Jamie taken through her window, and a copy of her class schedule he'd stolen from her mailbox. The most disturbing part? He had made a copy of her house key after taking a photo of her keys when they were visible on her counter during a delivery. The final story happened to a woman named Lisa who was visiting New York City for a business conference. After a late dinner with colleagues, she decided to get an Uber back to her hotel. It was raining heavily as she waited under an awning, watching for her driver. The app showed a white Toyota Camry was approaching. When a white car pulled up, Lisa hurried through the rain and got in without checking the license plate or asking the driver's name, a mistake she would deeply regret. "Going to the Marriott on 7th?" the driver asked. "Yes, that's right," Lisa replied, relieved to be out of the rain. As they pulled away, Lisa noticed the Uber app on her phone still showed her driver was 2 minutes away. She looked up and realized there was no Uber sticker on the windshield. "Excuse me," she said, trying to keep her voice steady. "I think there's been a mistake. Are you my Uber driver?" The man made eye contact through the rearview mirror. "No mistake. I saw you waiting. Looked like you needed a ride." Lisa's heart dropped. She was in a stranger's car, and no one knew where she was. She reached for the door handle, but the child-proof locks were engaged. "Please stop the car," she said firmly. "I need to get out." "Don't worry," the man replied. "I'm just helping you out. Hotels overcharge for everything. I know a much better place." Lisa noticed they were heading away from the hotel district, toward an industrial area. She had to act fast. She remembered a safety tip: create a scene. She pulled out her phone and loudly pretended to be on a call. "Hey, yeah, I'm in the Uber now," she said to no one. "The license plate is—" She made a show of looking at her phone. "Wait, that's weird. The car in the app doesn't match this one. Can you track my location? Something doesn't feel right." The driver glanced nervously at her in the mirror. "Actually," Lisa continued, "I'm going to take a photo of the driver and send it to you right now." She held up her phone as if taking a picture. This was enough to rattle him. The car slowed down at a red light, and the man quickly unlocked the doors. "Get out," he snapped. "I was just trying to help." Lisa didn't hesitate. She jumped out and ran to a crowded bar across the street. From there, she called the police and her actual Uber driver. Police later told her there had been 3 similar incidents reported that month, fake rideshare drivers targeting women traveling alone. 2 of those women were still missing. If these stories taught me anything, it's that we can never be too careful. Always check the license.